What was your plan for part one going to that last stretch from January to March? Because I know that can get stressful because you're like, all right, I've been studying, I've been looking at the book and watching the videos, but now it's January, like, or now it's February. Like, what do I do now? Everybody, my name is Andreas, and in today's podcast, we have fellow KMK coworker Jon Ismond. Jon, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, man. Today was my day off, so got some chores done, got a haircut, all that good stuff. So feel pretty good. Excited to be here and chat a little boards prep with you. It's always fun.
It's always fun. I feel like every time I go to a school to teach, you're like always there the same weekend. So
it's like they cool. Couple us together. Yeah, we're
sort
of the anatomy optics team. So it's always good. It's good running NBEO all the time.
So yeah, let's just dive into it. Just
sure.
some part one questions here for you. See if we can give some insight to the next class. So yeah, first off, when did you start studying for part one of boards?
So part one, I remember was in the fall is when I started. I want to say I started mid to end of September. I was planning on starting on the October 1st date, but you know how it goes in optometry school. You hear a little bit of chatter, and some people have already started, and there's folks who have been through the material once already, so you kind of feel that little pressure to get going. So I went and consistently started studying towards the end of September, early October, which I think worked out well for me. I was able to comfortably get through the material. It may have been a couple days after New Year's, but it was pretty close to that January 1st deadline, like we always suggest. So
when you by January 1st deadline, you mean when you read all the books and the videos? Is that
right? So the first pass through all of the videos, the basic videos, as well as reading through the textbook. I think I got done with that maybe January 4th or 5th. So
yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, pretty happy about that.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because we always get asked, it's like, is it too soon to start? Is it too late? And you have these students that will start in like June, and you're like, oh my God, you're going to burn out. Like I started in August, which I kind of felt was a little bit too early, but also I'm a very slow reader. So for me, I felt like I needed a little bit more time. It kind of worked out, but most people in my class started in like October too. So
kind of worked out. I mean, you were the top board scorer in the nation. Yeah, kind of worked out.
It's the state, Florida.
In the state, okay. I mean, still.
You give me too much credit.
Pretty impressive. And I think you bring up a good point there. Some folks start really early, some a little bit later. And I think everybody's a little bit different in terms of what works best for them, right? There are some people who will certainly burn out if they're working really hard for almost an entire year. And then there's some people who work better with a little bit of pressure going up against them. So the thing I like about KMK in general is we kind of try to give you a bit of a guideline, especially if you've purchased Signature. But everyone's a little bit different. And as long as you kind of hit those big milestones, it's just a good guideline for you.
Yeah, I know for sure. Every school is different. Every schedule is different. So
some schools have like really intense fall classes and are going through low vision and glaucoma and some disease courses while you're also learning KMK. So as you mentioned, the curriculum's different all across the board. So finding what works for you, I think is good. And for you and I mean, you were a little earlier than me in August, but for me, it was like end of September. And I think that was perfect. I ended up having more time than I anticipated. We'll probably get into that a little bit later, but
What was your plan for part one going to that last stretch from January to March? Because I know that can get stressful because you're like, all right, I've been studying, I've been looking at the book and watching the videos, but now it's January, or now it's February. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, I did not have Signature on my pass through. So I had just the basic core plan, which gave me access to the book and videos. So what I did is starting in September and going through January, I spent a lot of time watching the videos, doing the book as well. And I felt pretty comfortable with that. I feel like I absorbed a lot of knowledge and it was really beneficial for me. once it came to that January time, I started to feel a little bit of pressure. If I were to have rewatched the videos, it wasn't as much of a use for me because I didn't have booster. I didn't have crush. I wish I would have, but I didn't at the time. So a lot of my time in January, February, March was reviewing my notes and then going through a lot of practice questions. So a lot of precise practice, making sure I was taking the practice tests as well. Just a lot of kind of that quizzing. I know at KMK we talk about that active learning of quizzing yourself and making sure that you learn the material in a different way. I would do a lot of that. It's always tough because I have students ask me too, how do you prioritize clinic versus classes versus boards? And I would say out of the three, I probably gave most of my time towards board studying, just board because studying, it's a big block. It takes up a lot of your time in January and February. Now, one thing I would say, and again, I'm not using this as a way to say, oh, you don't have to study as hard. But when it comes to part one, you do get 6 opportunities, right? So if I had to give a little bit of advice in terms of how to spend your time, don't completely throw your classes away and fail them. You know what I mean? Because you only get one shot at passing those. You get 6 shots at passing part one. Obviously, we want you to pass the first time, but don't get so absorbed into it that you're ignoring the work that you have to do to graduate as well.
Yeah, I feel like the general consensus, which I kind of agree, it's like, obviously during optometry school, you're trying to pass your classes, and get as high of a mark as possible.
Yeah.
But I feel like when it gets to like January to March, it's like, if you can get a little bit worse in a few of your classes in exchange for doing a lot better on boards, then that's probably the move. And again, we're not saying like don't study for your classes, just do boards, but it's always priorities. What are you highlighting? What are you not highlighting? When did you take your first practice test? Since you were talking about.
Yeah, it's a good question. I know typically we say about around Valentine's Day, February 14th. Mm-hmm. I want to say that I took my first one. It was around then, I would say. Probably the week between the Super Bowl and Valentine's Day. I remember specifically, my wife always makes fun of me for this, but I always relate like events in my life to when certain sporting events happened. So I remember I was at a Super Bowl party with a lot of other students with my class, and they were talking about practice tests and having taken it and whatnot. And so I was like, ooh, I should probably get on that. I did mock exam 1, and then I think I waited maybe a week or 2 before I did mock exam 2.
Yeah.
And then I saved,
it's interesting.
I saved the harder ones for around my spring break time when I could really set that time aside so I could focus on those. You
definitely wouldn't say do mock exams 1 or 2 like after Valentine's Day, right?
No, I don't think so. I think, and you can kind of attest to this as well, right? Mock exams 1 and 2 are quite a bit easier than
so
it's what we say.
I think that was the intention. The intention of exam 1 and 2 is kind of like warm you up for it. And I feel like I've asked a lot of people with KMK. A lot of our coworkers have said it's kind of the same thing, Valentine's Day or like mid-January. Because even though I didn't finish reading the book and the videos by February 1st, January 1st I felt it was like a good benchmark of like do mock exam 1. Do one January 1st. Just because I feel like if you do exam 1, you get like crushed. Then it could be like, oh, where did I go wrong? And then you have more time to kind of troubleshoot. But at least I know that even though that's what I would recommend, if it's February 1st and you haven't started taking the mock exam yet, it's like, all right, like don't panic, because other people have done it and it's worked out. It's just definitely don't want to be March time in taking the first mock exam.
Yes, so. I agree. I second that, because you don't want to if you were to get whacked, like you said on the first exam, then March, it's a little bit, you're not working with quite as much time. I think part of it too, something that I would, address too is, I remember part of the reason I delayed is because I had a built up anxiety about it because, there's a lot of pressure on boards, and part of me had that fear of let me hold off so that I can study more before I take it. And I guess I was afraid of not doing well on that test. So I would say don't let your fear of doing poorly prevent you from taking the exams, because I'm sure there's probably been some students who have let that fear win out and haven't taken any mock exams prior to boards.
Yeah.
I like what you said,
yeah.
Andrea. You said it's a really good litmus test, and a good benchmark to see where you're at. I think that's a great way to put it.
Because I know, yeah, like you said, you can be nerve-wracking. I'm glad you brought the point, because I see how, you might be very nervous to take the test, and then you're worried about, like, just failing it, and then, but then the next few months are going to suck. At the same time, though, it's like, I want to get whacked on January 1st. I want to get, like, that wake-up call, like, show me where I'm wrong, because when you take the test, you can, even though you take the test, it doesn't just tell you what your score was, but when you look over all the questions, what you got wrong, lots of explanations will tell you why answer A is right, but also why the other ones are wrong. And so you could take the test 1, learn a ton from it, troubleshoot, then you take exam 2, then you do much better. So
I think you unlocked a key piece in something that is sort of underutilized. I think when I was going through boards prep, it was underutilized by me. But the explanations, you're exactly right. Half of the learning that you do from taking the mock exams isn't even to see how well you're doing, but also to learn from the specific questions and reading those explanations. Don't just get upset that you got it wrong and keep going. All right, figure out and sit in why you got it wrong so that you can avoid that mistake again. I think it's a huge point that you brought up.
Yeah, I know for sure. And I would say take the first exam. Sit down in your room, phone do not disturb.
Yes.
Have at it. Yeah. Then when you're done, have your hour lunch or whatever break. Then go back and spend I don't know, an hour or two going over every single question, and then that's it for the day. Like your day today is practice exam / going over it.
I think that's great advice.
Right.
Yep, I would second that.
On to the next question. What reflecting back to your whole study process? Were there any mistakes that you feel like you made that you would try to avoid if you had to relive the whole experience again? It gives me anxiety just saying it. But
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
My biggest, I don't know if I'd even call it a regret, but something that I didn't like that I did about my boards process is kind of sectioned it off towards it kind of made it an individual process. And what I mean by that is more so I would really isolate myself when it came to boards studying in general. I wish I would have reached out to more of my classmates to use that as a way to learn from them and also teach them and quiz each other. I would do a little bit of that here nor there, right? But I don't know. It felt kind of like in my class, it was kind of like that idea of you're afraid of what you don't know, and you kind of get fearful that somebody else is more or better prepared than you are. So as a result, instead of learning from them, you sort of just section yourself off to kind of protect your own insecurities. And I feel like I did a bit of that during my preparation. I wish I wouldn't have.
Gotcha. That's a good point. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why, because I noticed that too, where a lot of people in my class were kind of like, I mean, that's throughout optometry school, kind of isolated in your own bubble. I felt overall in school, I was, I'm like, I don't like group studying. It takes a lot more time, or I'd rather study on my own, get it done, no distractions. But then I felt like with boards, it's as soon as you start talking to other people and they start kind of collaborating almost, it's you're learning from each other because you're all studying for this massive board exam. So it changed for me where it's like, sitting around with your friends in clinic, just asking each other questions or asking each other poll questions. It's definitely helped it. And I agree. I wish I did more of that. I kind of learned that towards the end. Like one of the things that I that I remember when I first started studying is I got to like this section of pharmacology that was like, it was the anti drugs. And I tried understanding the book, all those bullet points, and trying to relate all those points together. And I'm like spending like maybe an hour on like trying to like, I don't know, just get down this rabbit hole. I'm like, I don't get it. And then my classmate's like, oh, just watch the video. Kyle breaks it down. So I was like, I wish I'd done it before. And they'll just like save me like 30 minutes or 45 minutes of studying. So
yeah, no, that's a fantastic point, right? That's something that you didn't know somebody else had found a good way to explain, and then by getting that, you save yourself a lot of headache. So No, I think it's such a good point. We're so conditioned to compare ourselves to one another, and I think that's just a natural thing to do. But instead of comparing to one another, right, using this as an opportunity to grow and learn with one another, I think is valuable. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, that's kind of corny," but so be it, right? You're gonna be smarter and a better doctor and student if you learn from one another. It's the best way to do it. It really is.
Yeah, no, I mean, and still now, like, now we're in clinic, and how many times am I texting you like, "Hey, I got this weird case. What are your thoughts on it?" Like, it just we're all just better when we collaborate. So
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
did you take part 1 in 2020?
Yes. So,
Oh man, dude, I can't imagine. What was that like?
flashback. It's 2020, right? It was. I remember distinctly. It was like a Thursday in clinic. I want to say it was like March 12th or 13th or something like that. And the start of COVID-19 was being felt around the world, and sporting events were getting canceled. Fewer and fewer people were showing up to clinic, and I remember there was a point where I turned to my lab group. I'm like, guys, there's no way we take this test next week. And they're like, oh no, surely, like this is a big deal. Of course we're gonna take it. I'm like, guys, it's not. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Were you taking it out Monday?
I was gonna take it on Tuesday.
Okay.
But on Sunday evening, our school said that we were closing clinic. We got the email. Man, it was late on Monday night. I remember I was, reviewing some drugs or something like that. Like super anxious, super worried about it. And they said it was from NBEO saying, "Hey, Pearson View, they're shutting down their testing centers. So unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we're delaying part 1." So literally getting ready to take the exam. And then all of a sudden, something that I've been working 6 months for
Dude, I can't,
is pushed down the road.
imagine.
And the thing that was really tough about it too is we had no idea, right?
Yeah.
As with everything else with COVID, it could have been that we take the test in 2 weeks. It could have been a month.
Yeah.
It could have been. We really had no idea. It was like being in purgatory. And the question became, like, because my other classes still went on, right? We were able to still do things over Zoom, and somehow Zoom overtook Skype or whatever, and like we had the Zoom revolution.
Yeah. Can I take boards over Zoom?
Yeah, right. I was like, I would do anything. I would take boards over Zoom. I'm doing an oral exam over Zoom if you need me to.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
It was a lot, man. So juggling my normal courses, and I was like, should I still study for boards? Like, I really had no idea, and we didn't really get any updates from NBEO for a while, and I don't blame them either because they have no idea. They
didn't know when they're gonna open everything up.
Yeah. So
dude, that's crazy. Like, I can't imagine. I'm sure some of your classmates had this. I'm sure some of your classmates like went to bed, like fully thinking they're gonna take it, and they didn't see it until they woke up. They woke up at like 7 or 6 or whatever. They're like, "I'm ready," and it's like, oh, dude,
I know you're from Florida, but like it for those who are like North and Midwest, they'll kind of get this. It's kind of like waking up to the worst snow day ever. Is what that would be like. Like you're like, oh, school's
man.
canceled. Well, crap, we were gonna have a pizza party that day.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, I mean, I guess if you're a third year watching this and you're having anxiety over taking boards, well, at least it's not 2020. So
at least it's not 2020 because I didn't take it till no, it was like July 31st. It was
oh my god.
Yeah, it was a long time. So once we got the update in like May, I was like, all right, I really got to ramp up again.
Right.
And I had plenty of time. A lot of this stuff really stuck with me, thankfully. So it was just kind of like, I was just so tired though. And with everything else going on.
You just got over it.
Yeah. So. But thankfully it was fine. I didn't get to really enjoy my 4th year as much because I just studied for part 1 and then, hey, we get part 1 results back. Okay, now it's time to study for part 2.
Yeah.
There was no real gap there. So Andreas is right. Enjoy getting it done
summer,
in March.
Yeah, summer after part 1 is like my favorite 3-month period of time school.
I can imagine what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
You know, part of the thing too is when you're going into externs, I mean, you're used to in clinic at the school seeing maybe 3-4 patients a day. And when I was in a private practice clinic, so I was adapting to seeing 15-16 people a day, you know, if
Oh,
not
no,
more.
yeah, and you're still talking for part
So
one.
yeah, and I'm still
Wow.
working for part one, so
Yeah.
it was a lot. But hey, I'm glad it's over.
All right, John. Yeah, that's all great stuff. Let's say I'm a third year. I've just watched this, and after this podcast, I come up to you and I ask you for just any general advice on part one of boards, anything that we may not have talked about today. What would you tell me?
It's a good question. There's a lot of different ways we could go with this, and you could
Yeah,
ask this question to any of the instructors, and they'd give you a totally different answer. I'm sure.
Yeah, that is true.
What I would say is, don't don't hold back and don't be afraid to give your boards preparation everything that you've got. I think that's super important because it's easy to hold back, and you might have this voice in the back of your head that says, hey, if I fail, right, I want to have a reason as to why I did. And that might lead to you not giving forth your optimal effort. My advice would be give it everything you've got. Learn from every opportunity that you have, whether it be through practice questions, whether it be through videos, talking with classmates or some of your instructors. Give it everything you have. Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed to admit that you don't know, but also work hard to make sure that you learn what you don't know. I think that's going to be really, really key, especially now that we're kind of going through the home stretch.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's super
no,
important.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of it I've noticed is not just like what you know or how well you prepare, just like your mentality. And
Yeah.
so if you're like just all anxious, thinking you suck, which you don't, that will bleed into your efforts. But if you're like, I can do this, I can pass boards. I've been here for 3 years. I've made it. Nothing stopped me from being here. Nothing stopped me from passing boards. I can do this, and just put in the time like we all did. It sucks, but we all got through it. So,
But the one thing, Andreas, that I think is important to bring up as well is every minute that you spend studying and putting in the work for boards, not only is it going to help you on the test, but Kyle's right. Like, it makes you become a better doctor, and it makes you be better prepared to handle situations in clinic that 3-4 years ago you'd have no idea even existed.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's really beneficial to go through this, not just for board's sake, but also for your career's sake as well. You're gonna be a lot more comfortable in the exam room.
100%. And then, once you get through part one of boards, is literally, I can't think of like any harder obstacle since. So I don't know. It develops your like mental strength, and after that, like life just doesn't seem as bad.
No, 100% agree. Like they always say that idea that you're so much more capable physically and mentally of doing things than what you think you are. And you're right. Once you pass through part one, it's like, man, I had fun taking part two. I'm like, this is like clinical examples. Like, this is fun for me.
Part two was cool.
Yeah. I learned so much about treatment and stuff that I still use to this day that I'm so thankful for and thought it was so cool. Mm-hmm. One thing I always say to students who ask me, right, like, they'll say, how much time is it going to stink? I'm like, yeah, it's going to stink, right? Studying for boards is going to stink. It's going to take a lot of time. And it's good to feel that, right? We talk about this idea of effortful retrieval when we talk about learning, and putting forth effort is how you make things work, right? You don't gain muscle just by lifting a 1-pound dumbbell all the time, right? You have to make it hard and you have to make it difficult. That being said, right, you're also not going to build up a bunch of muscle by continuously doing reps over and over and over and over again until you can't anymore. So one thing that I suggest to kind of avoid burnout is to find specific things that you really love and really enjoy doing. There's a really good financial advisor, who discusses this idea of spending, right? And what he says is, a lot of financial advisors say, hey, in order to save money, you have to cut spending in all aspects of your life, right? He says, instead of cutting spending across the board, because no one's going to end up doing that, Find the things that you really love, you really enjoy, and feel guilt-free when you spend money towards those things, right? So find the things that you love, spend towards them, and then everything else that you don't care so much about, let those go. I think that's a good way to think about how to spend your time when you're not studying during boards, right? Find a couple of things that give you joy. It could be walking your dog, could be spending time with your wife. For me, it was watching Survivor every Wednesday night on CBS, right?
Nice.
Don't feel guilty in spending that time away from boards. But then the stuff that you don't care about as much, right? So for me, that was like watching Gonzaga play Hawaii at 11:30 on a weeknight, right? Or things that I didn't really enjoy doing that I would waste. You know, watching Netflix that, watching a sitcom that didn't really give me as much joy. Try to cut that out and focus on studying. So that's what I would say, because if you do too much at once, you're going to get burnt out. Make it meaningful. Make your time off as meaningful as the time you spend studying. That's another piece of advice.
Yeah, no, this is gold. And I like your analogy. I like to think of the kind of like the gym analogy. It's like if you sit here and, like you said, curl 1 pound weights, nothing's going to happen. If you go once a month and just go ham on the weights, yeah, you might get something, but a week later, you're done. But if you do a little bit, like every other day, or you work out more frequently, but at a reasonable pace where you're not dying, then that's kind of where most of your progress is made. And the same thing with boards. So,
absolutely, couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah. So, Jon, my man, great talk.
Good time.
Great to have you. Good to reminisce on our boards part one experiences. Yes. Yeah, so we're not part of the optometry frat, and so we had to go through the hazing of part one, and now we're just enjoying the fruits of the labor. Oh my gosh,
so. It's so much better to work hard in clinic and then go home and just
just do whatever you want. That's crazy.
Do whatever. I mean, you and I, we kind of signed up to keep up with the material, but
of course.
But
of course.
But once sports season is done, man, come home and just do whatever I want to do. It's awesome.
Yep. And then we have to study, but we study what we want to study. That's what the CE is. You want to learn about dry eye, be dry eye guru. You do glaucoma, do glaucoma. You don't want to do BV, don't do BV. Refer to BV specialists.
Yep.
Refer to Dr. Jon Ismond.
Yeah, right. That's my my contact lens fittings. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm like, I find people who love it. That's not me.
Yeah.
It's super fun that way.
Yeah.
No, it's good, man. It's a good life.
All right, Jon. Yeah, thanks for being here on the podcast, and I'm excited for everybody to watch this and then to watch future podcasts of all the other KMK teammates. So
yes, thank you so much. Always a pleasure talking to you. Have a good rest of your night.